Cheers, thanks.
It's worthwhile. When you talk here, no, watoke tu hapa kwenye corridor yeye. Lakini ukitoka huko kwenye corridor speaker haitafanya kazi. Yaani itabaki Asha. Do we have ushers? Yes, we do have ushers. These ladies with the suits. Yeah. Why you feel like what we tell them to go push people to lunch? How many ushers? A reminder that there is lunch on the 3rd floor, and we will be continuing at 2:39. tag. hope we've all had a good lunch. We'll be kicking off in 5 minutes, so start to get yourself comfortable. Make sure you've got a bottle of water. Stay hydrated. It's quite a warm day. We've got some great content prepared and coming up for you this afternoon. So if your friend that was sitting to your left or right is not here, send them a message and tell them we're about to start and you're missing out. And there are plenty of seats closer to the front of the room. So for those of you that during the opening ceremony may have been near the back, I encourage you to come to the front of the room where you can be part of the substantive conversation. There will be space for Q&A. It's going to be a lot more relaxed and interactive. So please, if you're at the back of the room, come and fill up the seats at this lower half of the room. Let's get close. We're here to learn. We're here to meet new people. So let's try and get to the front half of the room. Come on down. Welcome back, ladies and gentlemen. We're kicking off in 3 minutes, so please come to the front of the room. We're ready to start our afternoon with keynote number 2, talking about value addition. And we are excited to learn from Professor Kimo, who's with us, ready and waiting for his audience to enlighten us, to share experience. So come on down to the front of the room. Okay, I think we're ready to kick off. Let's take our seats. We're ready for the next keynote. Did we enjoy our lunch? I hope we're not too full that we're going to fall asleep. I promise you some very, very dynamic content. We've got 3 panel discussions and a high-level keynote, and we're going to kick off with just that. So, I'm going to introduce our next speaker. If I could ask you to take your seats, please. We're ready to start, and to make sure the slides are loaded for the next speaker. Keynote speaker number 2, Honorable Professor Kimo Tiilikainen. I hope I said that correctly. Director General of GTK and former Minister of Agriculture and the Environment, all the way from Finland, is here today to share experiences around policy and regulatory frameworks to support mineral value addition. Can we put our hands together? It's not a short flight. He is here. Karibu sana, Professor. Welcome to the podium. We are looking forward to learning from you. Did we really eat lunch? I'm not hearing enough applause. Can we put our hands together for Professor? Thank you.
So thank you very much, Madam Moderator, distinguished guests participating here, honorable representatives from the administration and the ministries. ladies and gentlemen. So it's a great pleasure for me to have this opportunity to speak in this conference. I'm Kimmo Tiilikainen, Director General of Geological Survey of Finland, and of course Finland is very far from Tanzania, but I need to tell you that Finnish and Tanzanian relationship has been excellent very long time. Finland was one of the first countries to recognize Tanzanian independence, and we were one of the first countries to establish diplomatic relations between Finland and Tanzania. So therefore, and since those days, Finland and Tanzania has been partnering in many areas of cooperation. So I'm at the moment guiding Geological Survey of Finland, and if you think that why should we know something that Geological Survey of Finland is doing in far north, I just would like to show you this map that we are very different from many other geological surveys around the world. Most of geological surveys are very much focusing on their internal resources, but GTK has been present during the last decades, I would say, in each continent. I don't go through these activities that we have done. Most of them has something to do to mineral exploration and researching the mineral potential. We also work with processing of minerals, but with some other substances like groundwater, climate change adaptation, or even nuclear waste disposal. So very vast variety of activities in all continents. But like Madam Moderator mentioned, before I was nominated to lead GTK, I served about 20 years in politics. And my last ministerial role was being Minister for Environment and Energy, and therefore I would like to share you one slide telling a lot of the electricity and energy sector in Finland. So when I was preparing this speech, I took one day and the electricity production on that day. If you look at the different colors, starting from the bottom, the yellow is nuclear electricity, then above that there are two gray stripes. That means combined heat and power production using biomass as source of energy, both in industries and regional heating systems. The green vast area is the production of wind power, and then above all blue representing hydro. This is one single day, and if you look at the first half of the day, you can see that the production, overall production of electricity is much higher than the consumption, and in those first, let's say, 12 hours, Finland was exporting electricity to the Nordic and Baltic market, to our neighboring countries. But then the wind started to went down, and what happened in the market, you can see that even the nuclear industry, combined heat and power, and hydro, they all added their electricity production, and then we were also producing less than we consumed. We started to import from our neighboring countries. So on the very same day, we were exporter of electricity, we were importer of electricity, and the share of the different sources varied a lot. Why I tell you this? The reason is simple, that if you look the price curve in that picture, it starts almost zero when there is a lot of wind available. And when the wind is going down, the market price goes much higher, and then other sources of electricity become profitable. So this picture is showing that it's possible to do the energy transition that the world is looking for. So where is the CO2-rich sources in our electricity production? They have disappeared. 15 years ago, the situation was totally different. Then the most of our electricity was produced by fossil fuels, not anymore. In electricity production, the energy transition is done because of the very decisive political decision to invest in wind, solar, biomass. Okay, so the lessons learned from that is that the green energy transition is possible and profitable. Actually, last year, Finland and our dear neighbor Sweden, we had the two lowest prices of electricity in the Europe. And we are the two countries that produce the most of the, almost all of the electricity with renewables and part of that with nuclear, anyway, CO2-free sources. It hasn't come from out of nothing. It has needed a lot of investments to do these changes. Investments in renewable production, electric vehicles are coming next, and also modernizing the industry so that instead of burning some fossil fuel, they are more and more electrifying their processes. And also building the transmission lines so that the flexibility in consumption and production can be handled effective way. Okay, but if we are going to do the same in the whole world, like we should do to tackle the climate change, do the energy transition all over the world, that means that it will demand huge amount of raw materials. And it's not only the energy transition that needs huge amount of materials. We all have our cell phones and other digital equipment that need a lot of critical materials. And then, despite we all would like to have peaceful conditions, it's also true that defense industry is demanding all the same critical raw materials than digitalization and energy production. By the way, you may know that Finland is a very small country. Our population is about 6 million, so very, very little compared to Tanzania. But because we are a cold country and heavily industried, I think that you wouldn't guess that how big our electricity production is. It's about 10 times higher than in Tanzania. That means that the renewables that we are using is really remarkable amount, and there are more and more investments coming to produce renewable electricity, and we are going to export it to our neighboring countries in the future. So, what I told about the global demand of critical raw materials, here are some scenarios that the International Energy Agency has created. In the right down you can see the scenario, the need of batteries in the just couple of next years. That means that compared to this year's, after 4 years, the need of batteries worldwide is 3 times higher than today. That means that a lot of graphite and lithium will be needed, but it's not only the batteries for storing electricity or moving electric vehicles. We need to build a lot of electricity infrastructure, meaning transmission line, wind power, wind turbines and so on, and metals like copper are also very much needed in these scenarios. And if we compare the known projects, I don't know if this pointer works, let's see. No. Anyway, the planned projects are well below the expected needs. So there's a lot of room for new projects to be developed in the field of critical raw material production. Exactly what Tanzania is doing at the moment. But then when we come to the building the value chain, of course it's nice to be a country like Tanzania or Finland that is blessed with a lot of mineral resources, but then how we can get the most benefit out of it so that it really creates jobs for our people, it brings wealth for our people, and then the plans how to make the deposit, from deposits to value chain, that's the most important thing. I'm not going through these two maps, but it just shows that we have a lot of resources on the left side, And on the right side, you can see the different parts of the value chains built on these resources, targeting just for battery minerals. That means that there are mines, refineries, then battery chemical production, cathode and anode production, battery cell production, and finally the battery plants themselves. So the value chain is very long, and there are different parts of that. It's not just that you take lithium and graphite and then next you prepare batteries. There are many phases in that line, and each of them means hundreds of millions of euros of investments and need of hundreds and hundreds of workers in the opposite way. So this is what we have reached in Finland. Actually, we are processing and refining more ores than we are producing ourselves. So the coming investments in mining, they also already have the processing and the value chain on its place. Now I leave Finland for a moment, and when Tanzania is thinking what to do to develop the value chain based on mineral resources, I put here some very general requirements, what it takes to build sustainable mineral value chain when you are looking at of the eyes of investors, international investors. So actually world mining countries are ranked by the Canadian Fraser Institute annually, and how they are doing this ranking, they are asking private companies and asking them to evaluate the countries throughout the world, what kind of investment environment concerning mineral sector the country is. And like you see, the Tanzanian ranking is 9 out of 22 amongst African countries evaluated last year. So there is still room to go forward. So, but it also means that following these principles and doing the policies we have listened to this morning, it's very obvious that you will improve your ranking within African countries. So the general requirements: stable society, peaceful society. That is very important. Even the international companies appreciate that. And then, of course, you need policy that supports the mining investments. I was very curiously listening this morning speeches of Honourable Prime Minister and Honourable Minister of Mining, and the things that they told, they showed me that in Tanzania you really have the policy supporting the mining investments. And even the organizing this event shows that there are clear policy that Ministry of Mines is putting forward. But of course there's still room for development. Then if we take the next requirement, of course it all starts with resources, and high quality geological data is something that without that you can't build mineral value chain. And it's not enough that you have the data. You should also prepare it in that form that it's usable, accessible for the international investors or Tanzanian investors. Then when we are looking our society around of the possible mine deposits or deposits of critical raw materials, do we have road connection? Do we have railway connection? Do we have electricity grid there? The general infrastructure makes a deposit accessible, and therefore, though we had very rich deposits somewhere, but if it's very far, if it's very expensive to build the needed infrastructure, it's not obvious to be developed very quickly. And building partnership between private and public sector may help to create that kind of critical infrastructure to make deposits beneficiable. Okay, if we have deposit, if there is infrastructure on the place, skilled workforce is very essential. If you think the companies that are thinking that should I invest 500 million euros or US dollars to establish a mine or to build a refinery, of course they are looking that can we have skillful workforce? Is there trained persons available? And this is something that is very essential to develop forward. And actually, the Minister of Mineral Resources just earlier today mentioned that they are putting special effort to educate youth and women for the mineral sector too. So that means that it's in great development, I guess, here in Tanzania. And then we have the regulation. The regulation concerning the environmental criteria or regulation, how you can get the permits, how the licensing is working, and so on and so on. And when I say that clear and predictable regulation is needed, it doesn't mean that you somehow need to put the criteria down. Finland is totally opposite. I guess that we have perhaps one of the highest environmental requirements for companies working in industries. Or we have also quite high-level requirements how the local societies should be heard and taken into consideration when you are developing some industries. But the clear and predictable means that the companies can rely that, okay, these are the rules, and when we follow these rules, we can proceed and we can get licenses. And of course, in the eyes of international investors, there's no room for corruption, for good investment environment. Now when we look at the critical raw material sector in Tanzania, how government and Tanzanian society is doing to meet the requirements that I just mentioned, I would say that Tanzania is on the very good track. The critical raw material sector and related value chains are being actively developed. There's clear need to develop that forward. Mineral exploration has increased, and many critical raw materials projects are under development by the private companies. Government is preparing the Tanzanian critical and strategic minerals strategy to clarify the policy guidelines, to clarify the government's will, how we would like to develop the sector. And then once this is completed, it will introduce framework and tools for resource management, critical raw material supply chains, and sustainable development and economic growth throughout the mineral sector. We have heard today, and you know better than me, about the legal reforms and investments in education and infrastructure that government has done here to push forward the positive development. And once again, I'm coming then to the geodata. Gathering new geodata of the possible deposits and do the geological mapping using geophysics, geochemistry, all scientific methods. It's very important to provide also the investors with the best information available to make decisions. Then I return to my own organization, Geological Survey of Finland, GTK, and our collaboration with Geological Survey of Tanzania that we have been doing. So we have been working together, let's say, last 20 years at some scale. We have worked together in several projects. The first one focused on geological and geochemical mapping, along with airborne geophysical surveys of certain areas. Like we have heard today, it's only part of the Tanzanian territory that has been explored this way. We also developed digital tools for the field work and digital data management to bring the data more accessible. A little later, there were some other projects where we further developed geological and geochemical and geophysical mapping, as well as digital service development. Just earlier this year, we re-established our cooperation connection, signing MOU between Geological Survey of Tanzania and Finland for the future cooperation. And like also your minister mentioned, one of our best experts is situated right now here in Dar es Salaam to support GST development forward. But then, when we take the next steps and perhaps some kind of recommendations, or not even recommendations, my personal perspective or view when I'm looking Tanzania from the Finnish perspective, first, of course, is that when the national strategy will be ready, it's very important go immediately to the implementation phase and create very clear policies to support the development. So then everyone in this room and everyone working in this sector can be sure that government really wants to develop this to bring benefit and wealth for the Tanzania. When I'm looking from our side, of course, it's important that we also implement the MOU between Geological Survey of Tanzania and GTK. And then a big part of that MOU is capacity building. You remember I referred to the skilled workforce at different level in exploration, mapping, mining, processing. And we start this capacity building together with GST and possibly with universities, doing the basic work that is needed. And side by side with this, it's very important to develop the geodata infrastructure so that it's useful for investors. Further, I think that nowadays the world has changed a little bit in mining sector. In old days, it was enough that you had one rich deposit somewhere, whether it was copper or whatever. The one single metal was perhaps enough to establish a mine and then start to produce something. At the moment, it's more and more important to characterize deposits very thoroughly. So look through that what kind of beneficial substances there might be, and develop also the processing, suitable processing methods, that how we can cut most out of it, the valuable deposit, so that we can get the maximum benefit of that. And this is something that GTK can support here in Tanzania, working with private companies and Geological Survey of Tanzania. We have also developed one proposal together with some private company and VETA concerning the vocational training. Hopefully it will be accepted and we can go forward on that. And then I left here the environmental and social and governance aspect. That is cross-cutting theme throughout the mineral sector. That is what is just needed in now and in future. And that's something that we can hopefully help when we are working with companies in Geological Survey of Tanzania. So, like I said, Finland is a small country. We had very good relation with Tanzania, and the cooperation that we have done so far at a certain scale with Geological Survey of Tanzania have mostly been supported by the Finnish Ministry of Foreign Affairs. But if we would like to widen the cooperation, we heard that there is clear need to develop much further and wider mineral sector here in Tanzania. That means that we should also develop our cooperation to wider scale. And therefore, I believe that because Finland is member of European Union, one good way forward could be that we can work together with our Tanzanian friends and trying to find the EU funds that could support the development so that we can really widen the cooperation like we have planned. And I also would like to say that according to my understanding, the EU is especially interested in developing the whole value chain here in Tanzania. It's well in line with Tanzanian efforts and with Finland's efforts, what we have done in Finland, what we are trying to support you to do here. But then I would finalize my presentation returning to this picture that I showed you already. So here are the general requirements I spoke about. No single country can be master of everything. But referring what I have learned and heard even today in your ministers' speeches, you are trying to go forward in most of these areas. And I believe that doing so and showing the clear leadership throughout the policy and throughout this mineral sector, the situation will be more attractive from the private investors' eyes, and it will also be visible that Tanzanian ranking on the investors' eyes will be raised in future. I believe that, and GTK is ready to support our friends here in Tanzania to make this come true. Thank you so much for your attention.
A round of applause, please, for Professor Kimmo Tiilikainen for challenging us, but also opening arms and saying, let's implement this MOU. There's a lot of work to be done. We are going to transition directly into plenary number 2, which does feature a professor who will be on that plenary. However, I would like to start by introducing our moderator for the session. Plenary 2 is a discussion on policy and regulatory frameworks to support mineral value addition in Tanzania, and will feature a range of different speakers. Moderator, if I could call up your speakers, and then I will bring up the moderator, if I give you a moment. So on this panel, joining Professor Kimmo will be Honorable Stanislaus Nyongo. He is the Deputy Minister of State, the President's Office, Planning and Investment. Karibu sana, Mheshimiwa. Can we put our hands together for our speakers as they come up? Can we have also Ms. Asha Sabrina Ayub? She is an advocate working with Rive & Co. here in Tanzania. Welcome to the stage, Madam. And Mr. Archard Kalugendo, Assistant Commissioner for Mineral Value Addition and Beneficiation from the Ministry of Minerals in Tanzania. So these are our panelists, which means I am now remaining to introduce our moderator for this session. We are very fortunate to have with us Mr. Ludovic Uto. He's the Executive Director of Wajibu Institute of Public Accountability and the Chairman of MSG Tahiti. Put your hands together for our moderator, and allow me, moderator, to be very strict with time. I wish you successful discussions with your panelists. Karibuni sana. You'll start here. You'd like to start here? Okay. And for panelists, all microphones are next to you on the comfortable chairs. Karibuni.
Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. We are having our first plenary session, and as announced by the MC, I'm going to be the moderator of this session. We are having 4 panelists, and for this session we have got 1 hour for this session. You have all heard from the MC that she's going to be very strict on time. So what we are going to do to maximize the 1 hour, I'm going to ask my panelists, they'll be given each 8 minutes to answer a question which I'm going to pose to them, and I believe that in the 8 minutes of the 4 panelists, we should be able to cover the topic at hand. And if you remember, the topic at hand, ladies and gentlemen, is policies and regulations framework for mineral value addition, which is going to be the focus of our discussion for this 1 hour. We all know, ladies and gentlemen, that policy and regulations are very, very important to any institution or organization. The question to ask ourselves here is, how do we frame them? Because policies, if not well thought about and well worked out, they can backfire on society. Regulations likewise. Regulations, you need to balance. If you over-regulate, you can find yourself chasing away possible investors. But as for Tanzania, I think this is the essence of our discussion today. We would want to come up with the policies and regulations which should aim at attracting investors, making them comfortable, and also create a win-win situation for both the investors and the government. This, I think, is what we should strive to do. And if you remember, we were told in the morning through the Prime Minister's speech that the government is awaiting for recommendations on what should be done for Tanzania to maximize on this mineral value addition aspect. With that one, ladies and gentlemen, we are going to start our discussions, and fortunately with us, we are having the Honorable Deputy Minister, Honorable Nyongo, Deputy Minister, President's Office, Planning and Investment, as introduced to you. Honorable Minister, we are starting with you. I'm starting with you. It's an honor. Honorable Minister, as the Deputy Minister with the responsibility of overseeing the planning and investment portfolio in this country, and also you are a Deputy Minister in the Ministry of Mines. So, as far as I'm concerned, Honorable Nyongo, here you are at home. Here you are at home. In this plenary session of discussion on policy and regulation framework to support mineral value addition in Tanzania, this topic, I believe, has immense relevance and value to our ministerial responsibilities in the planning and investment portfolio. Could you please, Honorable Deputy Minister, share with us in 8 minutes' time on how policy and regulations in mineral value addition can impact on the country's development plans and investment. scenario. Thank you. You can speak while seated, or you can come to the podium as you decide. The issue is your 8 minutes. Can we clap for the Honorable Minister, please?
Good afternoon, everybody. Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. First of all, I thank you so much, moderator, for giving me time and respect to stand in front of this audience. Also, I recognize the presence of my colleague here, panelists. Thank you very much. But on behalf of the President's office, which actually we are dealing with, we are overseeing the issue of planning and investment. So this is a very right, it's a right platform for me to discuss what you posed to me. But in shortly, I'll discuss in very few minutes. I want to finish this 80 minutes. But ladies and gentlemen, let us remember that our country, we changed the mineral laws. We have a policy of 2009, and we through the legislative organ, Bunge, we made a law, a Mineral Act of 2010. We have the previous one, but we have a mineral law of 2010, and we did an amendment of 2017. The big issue was to see how minerals can benefit the country, or how the minerals can enhance the economy of our country. And we looked at the 4 or 5 things. First of all, we review the mining right. We review the issue of local content. We review the issue of environmental protection, value addition, and CSR, CSR, we call that corporate social responsibility. All these things, we looked at a way that how the country can benefit from this mineral sector. So we did that in the aim of creating good environment for investors to invest, and everybody to enjoy, for investors to enjoy what they are looking for, because all investors are coming here, they are looking for profit. They are looking for doing business. So we have to look on them that they are coming here to look for business, they have to do business. But as a country also, we have to benefit from the mineral sector by getting revenue from the mineral sector. So this was the very, very important thing to look at or to consider. So after doing that, the country made a law, and after that, the minister has a mandate to create regulations, and that regulation was to see how to smoothen the operation and to make sure that every investor benefit from the mineral, and they have to consider also the law of the country. So this was very, very important, and also we have a plan. We have a Tanzanian vision of 2025. And we grouped into 5 years. So every 5 years we have a 5 years plan. And we can see that even in the National 5 Years Development Plan of 2021 up to 2025, we, as a government, we prioritize to see how the mineral sector can develop the economy of our country by making sure that we are fostering the industrialization and make sure that the minerals create employment to Tanzanians people and benefit the economy of our country. So we put those regulations to make sure that every investor will enjoy and Tanzanians will enjoy all that. Moreover, we know that if we invest properly in exploration, then if we invest properly in mining activities and the value addition, we'll create employment as much as we can, and the country will benefit from this sector. Also, even us, for instance, now we know that the Vision 2025 is going to end by next year, June. The President Office now, we are preparing another vision of 2050. We are considering different aspects of making sure that our economy is going to grow properly. So we have foundation things to consider. First of all is the government stability, peace, rule of law, and predictability of any investor who wants to come to invest in Tanzania should know that Tanzania is a peaceful country. If they come to invest in Tanzania, they will enjoy to invest because the condition, the weather, and the tranquilized situation what we have, everybody will enjoy on that. So we are making sure that our country is calm, our country is handled in a peace. So we are doing everything transparently to make sure that our policy, peace in Tanzania is well kept and well maintained. So this is very, very important for investors to come invest and to know that Tanzania is a good country and there's potential for that. Also, we have pillars of our economy. We know that we have to develop human capability, so we have to invest on human capital by training people, training young Tanzanians to know how to mine, how to make value addition on minerals and everything. Also, we have different transformative sectors. One of them is agriculture sector. We have to know that Tanzanians, they have to engage in agriculture because we know that 80% of Tanzanians, they are involved in agriculture. So agriculture is a very good employer for Tanzanians people. The second sector is the mineral sector. Tanzania, we are blessed. We have a lot of different types of minerals. So we have to train our young people to know how to deal with the mine sector because we know that they can get a lot of employment on that. So this is very, very important, and the President Office, we are looking at a Vision 2050. We have to make sure that we are putting good regulatory framework to be friendly to anybody to invest and Tanzanian to enjoy on that issue. Thirdly, it's the issue of creating good connectivity or synergetic mechanism to make sure that mineral sector has a connection with another sectors, especially on the issue of industrialization. So we have another sector, we have to make sure that this sector should be friendly to make sure that Tanzanian value addition is taking place. So we are considering the issue of energy supply. So now we have Mwalimu Nyerere source of power. That's the source of power we got, and we are looking for good distribution of power up to the mining sites. We have to create good roads, tarmac roads, to make sure that minerals are transported well from around the country. So also we have to make sure that every place they are getting water supply to minerals, to mining site and everything. So this President's Office, on the collaboration of the Tanzanian people, as we know that Dr. Samia Suluhu Hassan instructed us that we have to make or to create good vision for Tanzanians, and we cannot do ourselves. He instructed us to involve Tanzanians to bring their suggestions, to bring their whatever they have, to make sure that Tanzanian 2050 we are reaching a very good destination for good Tanzanian as a country, as a people or society, to have a very good resilient society, to make sure that everybody is enjoying resources which we have been get from actually God who made us Tanzania. That's why we are enjoying that, and we are preparing for that. And I'm sure every Tanzanian, as the Prime Minister says today, that everyone has responsibility to bring suggestions to make sure that we are going to create a good vision for 2050. Thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
Mr. Uto, if you will allow me, is it possible for you to continue the panel discussion from the seats, just in the interest of time, so that each member can speak from the seat, if that is okay?
Okay. You speak from 5.
Thank you.
Now we move to Professor Kimo. Professor Kimo, in your capacity as the Director General of the Geological Survey of Finland and former Minister of Environment of Finland, we feel very blessed to benefit from your vast experience you acquired from your country and globally on the issue under discussion. Could you share with us on what Tanzania should do to avoid the barriers facing mineral value addition in Africa? And specifically, Professor, we would appreciate to hear from you of how you have handled this mineral value addition in Finland, and with the particular emphasis of whose responsibility is it when it comes to the mineral value addition? Is it to the extractive company or is it to a different investor? Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Moderator. And I think that now when you ask that how we can avoid the barriers of what may appear when you are developing the mineral sector forward and building the value chain, so I think it's like turning my previous presentation a little bit opposite way and thinking from another perspective. And I just told you about the general requirements, what it takes to build that kind of value chain. Now when I think the obstacles or the restraints, I think that first one could be perhaps the lack of information on resources. So if you don't know about your resources, if the quality of the geological data is not accurate enough or it's absent, you can't expect investments. So therefore there is clear need to develop the geological data acquisition forward and also build the infrastructure how the geological data is stored and processed to the most usable way. That is one thing. Second, I would think that the lack of educated persons or skillful workforce could build an obstacle. And how to tackle this? Okay, we all know that then we need to increase the education at the substances that are essential for the mineral sector, increase vocational education concerning exploration, concerning mining, different mining technologies, and processing, what kind of skills are needed in processing, and so on and so on. And okay, what can prevent this? I think that one very clear risk is that do we have enough resources to do all that education that is needed? And then perhaps I raised the third one, this lack of resources also in a way that the investments need the infrastructure. Not human infrastructure like educated person, but also the physical infrastructure. I mean roads to the remote areas, energy infrastructure, production of CO2-free energy and its transmission to the sites where it's needed. So that can prevent investments and development. And once again, where to get the finance for this kind of infra projects. But then, Mr. Moderator, you asked about our experiences concerning the value addition in the chain and who is doing and what. And I think that, of course, public sector like GTK as a research institute, we are, together with universities, providing the basic information concerning geological resources. So then private companies are doing the mineral exploration, and these private companies, sometimes they are very small, sometimes a bigger player, but once they found something promising, they either continue to develop that forward, or then they sell it to some bigger player to develop forward. Okay, then if the deposit is good enough, worth investing, then the mining companies, they come from abroad or sometimes within Finnish borders. We have both Finnish companies and international companies working in and doing mining. And but then from that onwards, that's the interesting point. So sometimes some company has developed the value chain forward so that they are doing a lot of processing and they are producing battery chemicals. But in most cases, the mining companies are doing some beneficiation and then they are selling the products to market. And we can't, in Finland, we can't prevent them to sell also these products abroad. But at the same time, companies that have built the value chain in Finland, they are buying similar kind of products perhaps from external markets and importing them. So we are both exporting and importing beneficiated products. But then how far you can build the value chain? I mentioned this battery value chain for electric vehicles that, okay, we may have battery chemical production, but then there are next step is some kind of anode factory, cathode factory, cell factory, and finally combining the batteries. So there are many different steps, and I think that because companies are competing in the world market, they have very much developed their expertise in some quite narrow field so that they are competitive in some certain area. And in our case, it's usually different companies taking different part of the value chain, not in a way that the one that is doing mining is pushing that very far forward. Of course, it's beneficial not only to extract, but beneficiate it forward. But then I believe that if the general requirements to attract investments is well in place, there will be other players investing to different parts of the value chain. One idea that we have been developing, especially when in Finnish industries, is creating industrial ecosystems. That means that trying to attract different companies working on the same side. Each one is bringing its own expertise, no matter if it's mining or processing or building something else or making use of some side product of mining. So this is some kind of thinking that I think that is worth developing forward also here in Tanzania. How to attract players from different sectors work together to build the value chain.
Thank you very much, Professor. Can we clap for the professor, please? We move to our third panelist, our learned advocate, Asha Sabrina. We thank you for agreeing to share with us on the legal implications of the policies and regulatory framework required in support of mineral value addition for social development in Tanzania. Specifically, can you tell us what should be done and what should not be done in order for the policies and regulatory framework we desire to have to encourage investors and at the same time for the government to maximize on the value of its natural resources.
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yeah, and on that one, please, you can also chip in on the issue of taxation.
I will chip in on the issue of taxation.
Thank you.
So thank you very much. So we're looking here for a win-win-win, right? Because we're looking for the investor to win, we're looking to the government to win, which includes money for the government, but we're also looking for the people to win when we talk about value addition. So the first thing, I'm a lawyer, so normally lawyers are quite unpopular, but now the Minister for Minerals is a lawyer too. Please note that. So I'm very excited, although Honourable Minister Biteko before him was also amazing. I'm very excited at the opportunity and what was said today, including by the Honourable Prime Minister, that there are going to be more changes of law. Not because I like the money from having more changes of law, but because this is a government that listens. But the first thing we need to do to encourage investment is make sure the laws are available and clear. Now, we talk a lot about predictability in the laws as well, which comes into that point about a 5-year plan that we talked about for development vision from the Honourable Deputy Minister. But investors want certainty more than anything. And one of the biggest issues we have with the mining law, you'll be surprised, is that I think you'll all remember, and some of the international investors here might remember, in 2017 there was a complete overhaul of the Mining Act. There was a Miscellaneous Amendments Act that did so many amendments. And actually, we got quite a bad reputation for those amendments, undeservedly. There are a couple of controversial points, but most of those amendments were all about readdressing to encourage value addition in this country. It's highly unfair that this country also is not able to monetize the natural resources that it has in a fair way that benefits both the government and the investor. But that was the 4th act amending the Mining Act in 2017, since it was created in 2010. Since then, we have had 12 other laws amending the Mining Act. And right now, we have a bill that is also going to amend the Mining Act. So you're talking about 17 laws that you have to read side by side to find out what is the current law. So other countries, I'm sure Finland, they consolidate their law every year. Whenever there's a change of the law, and the UK does this, you can go online and you can see the current law, including all the changes. Here we haven't done that yet. The government, though, is about to consolidate all the laws up to 2023. By the time it gets consolidated, though, there are going to be more amendments. And the same thing for the regulations. We need to have consolidated laws and regulations because, for example, if you just took the mineral trading regulations, they've been amended 5 times since they were introduced in 2018. So I have these consolidated versions. I'm happy to work with the government as well to make sure we get them, but we need to know what the law is. But those numerous amendments are because the Ministry and the Mining Commission listen. If investors have problems, they have redressed them over and over again since 2017. They've listened to the industry and then made changes, and I think that's really important. The other issue on the laws themselves is that regulations. So we have the Acts of Parliament, and we have regulations. Regulations cannot amend an Act of Parliament. Now, we have a little strange situation here, for example, on some things on value addition, where the Mining Act says something, but the local contract regulations say something else. So we need to also update our laws. We're talking about what needs to be done in the country, although we're doing a fantastic job to date. That includes on value addition and concentrates, because there are some places, for example, in the Permanent Sovereignty Act, that suggest you can't ever export unless you've fully beneficiated in country. Now, that's not the case. So we are scaring investors with these words that are not actually true at the moment, and it's due to interpretation. I think we need to just read over the whole thing and make sure everything lines up together. So we need to make sure the regulations don't amend the Act, and that consolidated versions cannot amend the substance of the Act. So, for example, there are some times when we consolidate the laws, and we actually remove something, like a requirement for a lender. There's a question on whether or not foreign lenders can take security over licenses, because we deleted a line of the Mining Act accidentally in a consolidated version. Also, and this is very important, we're actually going through a very exciting time right now with your bill I think you would have heard earlier that there's a bill proposed in Parliament at the moment to bring the EPZA together with the TIC and have one investment act, right, to cover the special economic zones and export processing zones. Now, those special economic zones and export processing zones, other people will have talked about and will talk about. They're hugely exciting for the mining industry. And there have been so many movements since the new investment act that we had, for example, to give all of the mines investment incentives through the investment act. So we're actually streamlining our regulators, we're making it easier for mines. But one issue that international investors will have is when we're publishing our laws now in Swahili. So the bill for the new investment law, which is the Investment and Special Economic Zones Act, is in Swahili. So if we cannot read it as investors, then we can't move forward. So for example, the Investment Act, when it was passed, there was also an English version. But it's really important that we do that. We need certainty. Now, I looked at the African Union, and they have an African mining vision paper about what you need to encourage value addition. And this country ticks every single box in the law. So firstly, increased geological mapping, which I know that our Finnish friends are helping with. We have that with the GST and also the data bank rules that many mines don't comply with. We really need, as the Honourable Prime Minister said, to go and do education on the law. We need investment in critical inputs such as energy. Do you know today Tanzania is over capacity? How many African countries can say that? Hell yeah. We are generating more electricity on our grid. Yeah, thank you. Thank you. Give a round of applause for our electricity capacity. We had to shut down dams earlier because we have too much energy on our grid. It's amazing. And then we have the rural energy push to try and get that electricity grid around the place. One thing we do need to do, though, is, and there's an excellent regulator for energy, but where you're in a remote mining place, we need to have easier generation licenses for what's called own generation. We're not selling it to anyone else. The mine is just creating its own energy. And particularly solar. We talked about the energy transition that's going on around the world, right? So we need to, particularly for renewables, etc., be able to generate their own energy, or to work with local partners to do that when it's not on the TANESCO grid. The other thing the African Union talked about was the inclusion of local mineral beneficiation and skills transfer, which we have in our local content and our beneficiation laws. I'm hurrying. Okay. I'll stop on that. And then this was a very interesting point. A transparent tax system that ensures that taxes are flexible. Now, we actually have that. We got a lot of questions about the government free carry that we're having in mining. It actually works better for mines than the previous system. It's a very workable system with the framework agreements. The one thing we don't have enough laws on is research and development. Our local content laws require it, but we don't push it enough. So just to talk about, I won't talk about the laws themselves because they'll get boring, but I want to talk about a couple of points. When you talk about how to encourage mineral beneficiation with law, you look at the different types of things. You've got the large-scale mines, you've got industries that mine. Now, this government is so thoughtful and works so well together that my understanding is, for example, cement companies, steel companies, the Ministry for Investment and Ministry of Industry and Trade is pushing to treat them as industrialized companies and remove them from some of the mining requirements, including the free carried interest. So the government is really listening and thinking this is not a mining company, this is a value addition company. So it's really important, I think, that change comes into law, and I know that the ministry has promised the CTI. You've seen that we've got special licenses for processing. I won't talk about the EPZs, but there's less red tape than mining. There's also a Finnish company around that's talking about recycling tailings. So if people are interested in actually processing, you'll be able to get recycling of those tailings from people who are mining. One thing I wanted to say, though, is where we're really falling behind on the law, specifically, is on dealers. So what is the only gemstone that you find in Tanzania? Who's listening? 10,000 shillings. Tanzanite, thank you. Tanzanite. Which I'm wearing here. Where do you buy the cheapest tanzanite in the world? Jewelry. My husband's a Sonara, family of Sonaras. People go to Thailand and India to buy tanzanite jewelry. What we need to do for the dealers, and to make sure that we're making things here, tax exemptions on specialized machinery, promises of work permits, and bringing back the diaspora. We're going to have a diaspora law hopefully passed soon. We have, if you go to a place in London called Southall, full of Indian jewelers, there's a huge number of Tanzanians and Zanzibaris there. We need to be able to bring them back. We need to do JV with India to get some skills training. We need to ease the hurdles on export of minerals. Okay. I think I have to stop now. But yes, happy to talk about law whenever you want to.
Thank you very much, Asha. Please, can we clap for Asha? We are moving to our fourth panelist, Mr. Kalugendo, Assistant Commissioner, Mineral Value Addition and Benefication, Minister of Minerals, Tanzania. Indeed, Mr. Kalugendo, you are the very right person for this panel discussion, because what you are discussing is your day-to-day activity. Please share with us as to what is the current situation in the country's policies and regulatory framework to support mineral value addition, and as to what you think should be done to make things better for the country. 8 minutes, please.
Thank you. Thank you very much there, Mr. Moderator. Good afternoon, everybody. It's nice to be here. I would like first to share with you that current situation in Tanzania, as you have heard most of the presenters have just said, we are concentrating in beneficiation, which is a step, but actually is not good enough. We need to move away from beneficiation to mineral value addition. And what we are doing right now, we are doing very much on beneficiation. And sometimes it confuses people. They think beneficiation is value addition. Actually, it is not. These are two different things. So first, the mineral value addition, when you talk about mineral value addition, you are talking about adding economic value of minerals and trying to move from the mineral product into a usable product, which is different issues. Now you are moving from mining to industrialization. You are moving from mining to manufacturing. That's where Tanzania wants to go. And now I've been asked to tell you what is the current situation. The current situation in our policy is, first of all, we want to encourage that beneficiation, and the law is already very clear. I thank you, Madam, for telling us about the law. You are supposed to make beneficiation in Tanzania. No raw minerals are allowed for exportation, but you have to add some sort of value. But this beneficiation is moving from raw minerals to certain concentrated level of minerals or to the final product of minerals. After we get that step, where we want to do is now to manufacture items. We want to move from phosphorus to fertilizers. We have a couple of industries now doing just that. She has mentioned the cement factories. Now what we are putting in place, we want to make a seamless movement in our policy to make sure that locally you can get raw materials. These beneficiated minerals can now easily move into another level. So when we attract people to come and invest, she has mentioned, actually I've done a lot of my work, she has mentioned these investment parks, these special areas, special economic zones where we are attracting people to come and invest into mineral products so that they can go further from the beneficiated minerals into manufactured products. So if we are talking about, let's say, nickel, we wouldn't like to sell, it's good to sell a pure nickel rather than a certain level of unprocessed nickel, but we would like to sell a battery. So we are attracting someone to come and invest in our country to make batteries. But also we would like to make, as I said, to make products which are useful to our people. I think that is another area where we go on the mindset. before Africa, before we look abroad, before we look to break into the abroad market, what about our needs? We need to use our minerals to solve our own problem. Use our minerals to get fertilizers enough to make sure agriculture is thriving, agriculture is more economically attractive, to make it able to sustain ourselves and our economies. But also we want to move. If we go into fisheries, if we go into tools, into all making this, everything should be done to attract, because we have this mining sector. Now, what is our simple needs as well, which we normally don't focus on? Our people, for example, need modern shelter, modern houses, modern buildings. Guess what? We use minerals to make bricks. We need gravel. We need these aggregates for constructions. We need better roads, infrastructures. Infrastructure are built with minerals. So we need to move from this into final products, and these final products to help sustain our economy, to help develop our economy. So basically, the policies we are putting in is the incentives. We are putting some incentives. We are attracting people to invest. And because the moderator have just said that I can talk on and on, please, let's move from beneficiation into value addition. Thank you very much, moderator.
Yes. Do you want to come back to the podium just to close us off? We've just got about 3 minutes left now.
Yeah, we have got 10 minutes. I will call upon anybody 1 minute questions. Can we start with Dr. Kafumu, please? A mic for Kafumu. Dr. Kafumu.
Can we have one usher, please? I'm not fit enough.
Thank you very much. My question goes to Mr. Karugendo. I was very happy that he differentiated between mineral processing at the mine to get a mineral product, which can be sold, and also the value addition after you have the product. You sell it to the industry and then you sell it. But I was wondering, the minister used the same word, beneficiation. He didn't use beneficiation. He used value addition when he was giving an order that he's not he will not give any license on exploration or mining until the investor tells how much he's going to do value addition to his minerals. I feel this is a deterrent to investment. Can you tell us what's your feeling on that?
Thank you. What we have been told, that the minister combined the two activities into one.
Sorry, moderator, please hold the mic to your mouth.
Another question?
Last question.
Last question?
Last question.
My friend here.
Asante.
Yes, my name is Abdi Yahya. I'm coming from Chunya, and I'm a mining contractor. My question is regarding mineral valuation addition. To what extent are we saying the corporations have to? If you tell a corporation, a company, to develop batteries, how do we overcome the stigma? Because in this room here, especially the ladies, if you ask them, most of them have iPhones. And the reason why they have iPhones is they don't want to have an Infinix because it's made in another country. So how can you sell a battery made in Africa when you know that the investor who is bringing all his money here would want to take an item that is minerals, value-added minerals that are not batteries, so that they can go and produce the battery in a country with a reputation that can attract trade.
Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you very much. First of all, I'll react very quickly about the first question. Yes, it is true that when the minister is talking about licensing, that he is not going to give a license if you don't have a plan on how to beneficiate the minerals, not the value addition. Because value addition is completely a different thing, it's completely a different business, separate from mineral beneficiation. What we were talking about is not exporting raw minerals, rather is exporting value beneficiated minerals, which has been processed to a certain stage. Now back to about the needs. When I was talking about what we need to do is not that we don't want to make batteries so that we can attract external markets, but what we aim at is we look what will benefit the mass first. Yes, we can go into battery making, but actually our needs is fertilizers. Our needs is pharmaceuticals. Our needs is good health to our people. So that is our priority, and that's where we are. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you so much. To sum up, actually, on behalf of, on behalf of the government of the United Republic of Tanzania, that we want to assure all investors that Tanzania, we are still setting good policy, good regulatory framework to attract investors to come to invest in Tanzania. As Madam said here, we are going to establish socio-economic zones, and we have the act now. We have a bill to the Legislative Assembly in order to pass that bill to make sure that we are going to create a good environment for investors who can come and invest easily by facilitating those areas, and to look at the good tax policies to make sure that all investors, either from outside Tanzania or internal investors, should benefit on those special economic zones. Those we are going to create that, and that will be very good for Tanzanians, very good for all people, to make sure that to all investors, to make sure that when they are coming to invest, everything they have to find there is already facilitated, and we are going to exempt some of taxes, as Prime Minister said here. So this is very, very good. We can say that it's a very good, promising step, and we are inviting every investors to come to Tanzania to invest.
Thank you very much. Your Excellency. 1 minute.
Yeah, thank you. So, Ms. Assa raised one very interesting theme, the work with tailings. And one way to improve the value addition is, well, nowadays, if you are, for example, extracting copper, 2% is the share of product, 98% is the share of some kind of waste. One way to improve the value addition is that bigger share of the extracted material is used for some important purpose. And therefore I raised earlier the characterization of deposits beforehand, because even nowadays it may be beneficial to make use of tailings, but it's much easier to try to make all valuables out of the extracted material before they are wasted to tailings.
Thank you. Chief, 1 minute.
Okay, I've just been given 1 minute, so I would like to emphasize that please let's move away from just beneficiating minerals and into value addition of our minerals. Let's try to make final products for our own use, for our people's use, and then we start thinking about external market. Thank you very much.
I was just going to say the analogy for the Infinix and the iPhone. We are the iPhone, yeah? Don't forget that. So the analogy that we had over here, people are going to go with local companies because the local content laws require it, and we can produce, and the idea of allowing technology transfer, skills transfer, is we can produce the same quality as other people. That's why I'm saying do a JV with India, bring people over, bring your diaspora back, train people here, and then we can do it ourselves. But one thing that we do also have to do, because we didn't touch on the tax, is also make sure the mining regulations are amazing. Sometimes we get strategic investor status, for example, here, to make sure that the Ministry of Finance is gazetting those tax exemptions on time. And we say we need to have timelines for doing these things, but people want to invest here. It's a very exciting time for this country.
Thank you very much. I am hoping that for this discussion,
Please hold the mic near your mouth, Mr. Otto. or come back to the podium.
I'm hoping that from this discussion, the coordinators of this event, we should come up with a recommendation to the government. Yes, policies, regulations are necessary, but we have to be careful on how we frame them in order to ensure that we are not chasing away possible investors, and this concept of win-win for both parties is maintained. Thank you very much, Madam Chairperson.
Thank you very much. A round of applause, please, for the panelists. Can you come to the front of the stage? We get an official photo together. Our moderator, Mr. Ludovic Uto, Honorable Stanislaus Nyongo, if you could come and position yourselves at the front. Photographer, please, one photo. Naomba ujipange hapa mbele, Mr. Moderator. There we go. Professor Kimo. There we go. Asha Sabrina Ayub and Archad Kalugendo as well. Thank you very much. Please look forwards. Time flies when you're having fun, right? That was a very, very insightful panel discussion. Thank you very much. So, can I ask everyone to stand up, please? We've been sitting for a long time, just as the panelists step down off the stage. I want you to quickly find a partner. Somebody that you have not spoken to today. Quickly find a partner and stand face to face with that person. Find a partner and look at them. Okay? That's the easy part, the looking. Okay, when I say one, you're going to high five together. One. There's only one partnership, it seems. One. Kwa pamoja, one. When I say two, I want you to jump. Two. When I say three, I want you to squat. Three. Okay, I will keep it simple. One. 3, 2, 1. 3, 2, 1. Tumelala. Thank you. Take a seat. I would like to acknowledge at this point the presence of Honorable Hassan Joho, Minister of Minerals from Kenya, who joined us during the session. Thank you very much. I believe he's in a bilateral meeting, but will be back. But he has joined us for the Mining Investment Conference. So here's what is going to happen for the remainder of the afternoon. We have 2 brief power panels. We have plenaries 3 and 4. So what I'd like to do is to bring my moderator up first. I'm going to be stricter on this one. My moderator is going to come and sit in the middle of the panel here. So can we put our hands together for Mr. Salim Babde, Director of Camel Oil Tanzania. If you could come up to the middle chair. And, sir, you strictly have 45 minutes, and I would like to bring up to the stage now the chairperson of the Mining Commission, Ms. Janet Lekashingo, as one of our speakers. Can we put our hands together? We have Mr. Sodhi Naikar, Managing Director of DMT Kai Batla, moderator in the middle. We have Mr. Chris Showalter, CEO of Lifezone Metals. Please come on up to the stage. And last but not least, Mr. Philip Schmidt-Thom, International Operations Director from the Geological Survey of Finland. He is a colleague of Professor Karibusana. Mr. Moderator, any chair, as long as my moderator is in the middle. Something that you should know, when I emailed all the panelists and the moderators, I said, please give me permission to be strict with you. They all said yes, so no surprises. Mr. Salim Babde, please proceed. Your 45 minutes starts now.
Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Salim Babde. I am the Director, Camel Oil, AMSOS Group. I have my panelists here. I would like to introduce them very shortly because of time. I have Miss Janet Lekashingo. She's the chair of mining company, and actually the second one is Miss Sodhi Naikar. Sodhi Naikar is a managing director of DMT Kai Batla Limited, and my third panelist is Mr. Chris, the CEO, Life Zone Metals. And the fourth one is Mr. Philip. He's a director, operation director in Geological Survey of Finland. All right, so we'll start with the first question. Actually, as we know that in our country, we are facing barrier and challenges in the mining sector. So I would like to start with Janet. Okay. And basically, I can tell you, I have very strong panel here that you will gain a lot of knowledge and it will be very insightful for you. Okay, Janet, I would like to know from you, Madam Janet, what could be the possible solution or strategies to unlock mineral value addition activities?
Thank you, moderator. Good afternoon, everybody. Okay. To get to the possible solutions or strategies for mineral value addition, I would like to first take us through quickly on the definition of mineral value addition. When we speak of mineral value addition, we refer to the processes that enhance the value of the raw material, transforming it into a refined material or intermediate goods or finished goods. And this is commonly known in two areas, where that's processing and refining the raw material, extracting the material, of course, that is, and then manufacturing the product into a finished or semi-finished good. I have another one to add on top, which is supporting industries like mining equipment manufacturing. While this is often not discussed, but it is a mineral value addition opportunity. Now, let's talk about the possible solutions or strategies to unlock the mineral value addition activities in Africa. And I will discuss by dissecting into the general drivers of the mineral value addition. The first one is the volume of raw materials produced. You need to actually have a high production volume to make it economical viable for value addition to happen. And the possible solution to it, or the possible strategy, is to make sure that we increase our exploration and mining activities to boost the raw material supply and to make value addition and investment attractive possibility. The second one is market demand for value-added materials, which is the successful value addition depends on a strong demand for the processed materials. Do we have that demand in our domestic market? That's a question we need to ask. And the possible solution for that is to expand our markets to the wider Africa, East Africa and the wider Africa. The third is cost of value addition. That's labor, energy, logistics, taxes. These are critical in determining the competitiveness. And in addressing this, the strategy is addressing the high cost and improving logistics infrastructure, offering tax incentives like what our Honorable Prime Minister told us today to attract investments and value addition. Then there is the availability of skills and labor. To make sure that we have the necessary skills, we need to expand our technical education and fostering in industrial and academic partnerships to make sure that we enhance this critical resource in building the workforce required for value addition. Then there is the proximity to global logistics networks. Countries like China win because of this. Ease of port, access to ports, container routes, and efficient transport systems that reduce costs and enhance the market. The strategy here is enhancing roads. We've seen our railway being enhanced, port infrastructures, to make Africa or Tanzania a value-added products more competitive globally. The sixth one is ease of doing business and community acceptance. And that's investors need transparent regulations, efficient bureaucracy, and community support for long-term success. The strategy here is simplifying business regulations, promoting community engagement, and ensuring socio-economic benefits for local populations are vital for attracting investments. The second, this attracts investors and fosters innovation. And the strategy here is developing frameworks to protect IPs in mining and value addition processing, will encourage technological transfers and local innovation. The last, but by no means least, is investment and capital access. Ease of access to financing and assurance of profit repatriation are essential for attracting international and local investors. And the strategy here is creating favorable financial frameworks such as investment guarantees and accessible funding that will encourage both local and foreign investments. Now, in summary, what could be done for possible solutions and strategies in unlocking mineral value addition and activities are economic and infrastructure strategies, obviously expanding exploration activities, public-private partnerships, and regional market integrations. Then cost and competitive solutions, offering tax deductions and subsidies, and implementing policies to stabilize energy prices and improve logistical networks like roads, rails, and ports. Then the third is skills development strategies, establishing technical training institutions and to ensure industry-based apprenticeship programs. The fourth is policy and regulatory reforms, to enact consistent policies to provide long-term stability to investors, introducing of clear frameworks for profit repatriation and IP protection. And last and very important, social and community engagement, strengthening community relations through transparent communication and equitable benefits sharing programs to attract social license to operate. Thank you.
Give her a round of applause, please. Janet, in her capacity as a chairman of the Mining Commission, you could see how she presented in a very professional way. And I was about to take my bell here and say, Janet, it's enough. But she finished on time, right. Thank you very much, Janet, for that insightful. And I think now I go to Philip. Yeah, Philip, I want to ask you, in what ways do regulatory framework impact the growth of local mineral value addition? Can you take mine, please? Saving time.
Right. That's on. All right. Thank you very much for the question. First of all, I want to thank the organizers for inviting me. I had the pleasure to be here also last year, made a lot of friends, and I'm actually here for 5 months, seconded to Tanzania. I cooperate with the Geological Survey of Tanzania, and as it was said, I work for the Geological Survey of Finland. Now, thank you very much for the question. I think from a regulatory point of view, first of all, I would never tell any country in this world what to do, because that's not my nature. The only thing I can do is I can give examples that I've seen in other countries that work well, and then any other country that I visit might take their own decisions what they will want to implement or what they might want to leave out eventually. So what we have seen, for example, in Finland, what works very well is the so-called interplay of institutions, so that the entire regulatory framework around the mining and the value chain, or the value addition, how you call it, is in a complete interplay. That means there are regulations, there are laws, there are acts that ensure that every single player has their specific role and will not interfere with any other institution. In other words, when you want to come to Finland and you want to do mining, you want to do investment, I hear all the time, and this is great, that you ask for investment to Tanzania. What are you actually asking for? What is the person coming here and investing, if that person or that company would actually like to go from mining over beneficiation, as we learned so nice from the former speaker, into value addition? How does this precisely work in any country? What are all the regulations that you have to observe? What are the laws? And we had this brilliant speaker, Mrs. Asha, who was counting upon the different laws or explaining different laws in Tanzania, and that they're sometimes contradictory. So the regulatory framework must be extremely tight, and this is what our Director General, Kimmo Tiilikainen, has said. Finland has a very, very tight regulatory framework, probably one of the tightest that you can find in the world. And still we have continuous investment to the mining sector and into the value adding. Why? Because everybody who comes to Finland can read through all of the legislations in English, if needed. Of course, they're also in Finnish. And the investor knows exactly what will happen on what day, at what time, and can plan ahead for the next 10, 15 years how the entire investment will develop and go forward. And there is no loophole, there is no pothole, and there are no surprises. And this is, I think, what is the key of the regulatory framework to support value adding. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Let's give him a round of applause, please. Now, I would like the panelists from these two questions, anyone who can aid from the panelists, from the Janet to Philip, to add it up. Anything you can add up, please? And I mean, adding up to question 7, the possible solution and strategies, and what Philip, I asked him about what ways do regulatory framework impact the growth of local mineral value addition? Anything that you can add? Yes. Janet responded to the question, what are possible solutions or strategies that unlock mineral value addition activities? Yeah.
Yep, thank you. So as the CEO of Lifezone Metals, I mean, we have obviously one of the flagship projects here in Tanzania. So we are developing the Kabanga Nickel project, and that's a two-part transaction. There's the development of a nickel mine, but then we are also bringing in our own hydrometallurgy know-how and expertise to set up a refinery complex in Kahama. So I think the whole entire theme of this conference is incredibly relevant to us because it's really at the core of our philosophy of empowering and unlocking new mineral resources and beneficiating them domestically. So I think this tribute to the theme of this conference. This is something that we feel we're really at the front lines. We're the ones out there really developing, which should be an incredibly strong demonstration of this exact policy.
Right,
so very exciting to be here because of that specifically. In terms of enabling, I think one of the points that was made, and I've heard some of the comments about beneficiation, value addition, there's one of the words that I think is very important is scale. So when we talk about beneficiating all metals, when we talk about the Kabanga project, these types of projects, these are very capital intensive, they're very large, so you do need scale. Not every mine can have its own sequence of beneficiation alongside it. So the scale is a very determining factor of what is going to work and what doesn't work. For Kabanga, we're fortunate in terms of enablers to the question. If you're going to support beneficiation and value addition as a policy, as a government, what does that look like? Because those are really the enablers. And we've been fortunate that the Tanzanian government has very much shared in our philosophy of beneficiating and allowing Tanzania to value add as much as possible to their sovereign resource. And we've mapped out how the Kabanga Nickel project, is going to be a prime example of that. The government, just two small examples of how the government's been an enabler. One small one, at the Kabanga site there wasn't connected power, and so as part of the rural electrification, government on their own initiative brought in a power line so that we weren't running generators on site. So just small examples of how government is playing a supportive role, but that is one example across a number of different departments that we are engaged with. The other fortunate circumstance for us was the development of the Kahama Special Economic Zone. Now, these special economic zones are there to stimulate additional beneficiation and value addition. So for us, that was an incredibly unique circumstance where one project goes into closing, so the Bazwagi gold mine goes into closure, and we're able to step in, maintain economic activity in the region, which is very important for jobs, and we can come in and replace, but we have that skilled expertise there as well. But we also inherit all that infrastructure that's been put in place. So that's another example of how government has assisted enabling us, formulating that special economic zone, and being able to pull in all that infrastructure. It's just another example of the government supporting in that instance.
Thank you very much, Chris. Give him a round of applause, please. That was huge. That was really huge. Sorry, do you have anything to add up from the two previous panelists?
Yes, good afternoon, everybody. Good afternoon, fellow panelists. It's a pleasure to be here. I think you guys have covered most of the challenges, and it's been a day of discussion around challenges, and it's nothing new. We all know this. But I'd just like to put things in perspective, the current landscape in Africa. Africa holds vast resources, mineral resources. The latest figures say that we hold about 30% of critical raw minerals. And if you look at the value addition, it's very disproportionate compared to the rest of the world. Apart from smelting and refining, we don't go beyond, further down the value chain. As far as I'm aware, there isn't any products manufactured in Africa in terms of critical minerals and what's required for the green transition. So I think we need to seriously look at it. What can be done and what are the challenges? And maybe if I could just touch on one, which I think is an important one, is the lack of regional integration. I think that's a massive problem. All the African countries are working in isolation, and it's not to our advantage. Some of these challenges, because of the lack of regional integration, include fragmented markets. If we pull together, we can have a bigger market for products that we develop. High intra-African trade costs, limited cross-border infrastructure, and non-tariff barriers increase the cost of moving raw materials. Divergent policies and strategies for countries. Each country has its own policy and strategy. If we harmonize these, I think we'll have a stronger voice and a bigger bargaining power when it comes to dealing with mining companies. Missed economies of scale. With regional integration, countries can pool their resources. As Chris quite rightly pointed out, each country cannot have a smelter or a refinery. We should look at regional hubs and work together as a region. Duplication of efforts as well is a key thing. Countries may independently attempt to establish these value addition industries, leading to inefficiencies and competition rather than collaboration. So I think regional integration is a key item that we should look at and talk about a lot more. Yeah. So I'd like to leave it there for now.
Yeah, I think it's enough. Sorry, because you have a question, and you have enough time for the next question. I would like to ask Chris. Wow, I think it's a wonderful question. How can African countries leverage technology to overcome barriers in mineral processing?
I think there's one comment I want to make, because I think it's important based on what we just heard, is the regional integration. So for Kabanga, as an example, Kabanga has benefited from the massive commitment to infrastructure investment that Tanzania has embarked upon over the past 5 years. So hydroelectric power, standard gauge rail, that is the long lead requirement that unlocks a number of these critical metals in the country. Now that has a follow-on effect as well, because if you look at the bigger regional vision for the standard gauge rail, it does extend, it does go into Burundi. So Tanzania is building out an extensive regional infrastructure, high cost, but a big commitment. Burundi has massive nickel fields that have never been developed, but they're going to have now the potential to link in to the standard gauge rail. So there's these examples of potential regional integration, but it all starts with the commitment Tanzania has made to the infrastructure. And then when you get centralized, when you get refineries built, that first one is the massive catalyst. So the way we view Kabanga is that this will be a catalyst for other stranded remote assets that probably wouldn't be developed as a standalone. But with a centralized processing hub, there's the ability to expand on that. And that's not just for Tanzania and additional assets in Tanzania. It could be additional assets in the region. So I didn't answer the exact question, but I thought important to make that comment.
Wow, thank you very much, Chris. Let's give Chris a round of applause, please. Thank you very much. 5 minutes. Okay, I've got one more question. Sorry, I would like to share because, most points are, they're interrelated. So I would like to repeat the question. But sorry has got one right so that I can treat everyone with justice. Sorry, one question that I need to ask you, what are the possible barriers and challenges facing the mining? Yes. Yeah.
So we've been speaking about barriers quite a lot again. So, one thing that some of the previous speakers spoke about throughout the day is the lack of geological information.
Yeah.
And that's across the country. The importance of that cannot be stressed, enough. But not geological information for the sake of geological information.
Yeah.
Mapping, in my view, should be linked to a value addition strategy. When you map an area, you should be thinking about the bigger picture, almost call it a mineral scan. What minerals are in there, and how could these feed into a value chain to develop products all the way down to intermediaries? So it's having access to that geological information, putting in programs, and carrying out those mapping exercises. And going down into, details. People talk about lithium. Yes, lithium, but what lithium are you talking about? Is it petalite or spodumene? And that makes a difference to the end use. It's looking at those sort of things when we talk about mapping. Doing mapping for value addition, including basic metallurgical test work that goes with mapping. So it's redefining the geological strategies that have been used in the past, and trying to focus it more into value addition benefits.
Thank you very much, Tori. Give him a round of applause, please. Okay. Because Janet, I respect Janet, chairman of the Mining Commission. In 1 minute, please. In 2 minutes, can you give us a conclusion of this? You as a chairman of, because I have one more question to ask. Just yeah.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah.
Just to round up, value addition is not just a goal. It is a pathway of unlocking Africa's potential for socio-economic transformation. Tanzania has the opportunity to lead by addressing these barriers strategically and systematically, creating an environment where the mineral wealth can be enhanced to generate more prosperity. So let us take these challenges and barriers as opportunities to build our future, driven by innovation and inclusivity, inviting investors, sharing the technology, and sharing what we have in order for the betterment of all. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Janet. Let's give her a round of applause. Now, quickly, Chris, I want to ask you one thing. If you were to go back to college, okay, Gerald Ford said, if I was to go back to college, I would learn to write and speaking before the audience. If you were to go back to college, what would you learn now from college? Yeah, if you were to go back to college, what would you learn? What was the missing skill we think you should have learned?
Jeez, okay, that's an ambush question. I think just by circumstances, when I went to college, I studied environmental science with really no insight as to battery metals, but from a pure interest standpoint, it was environmental science. Then I went and got stuck on Wall Street and did finance. Now, I eventually got into mining finance. Mining finance has pulled me into, really what we're doing now, which is a more environmentally friendly beneficiation of metals. So, I guess I kind of found my route anyway, but I would absolutely be focused on environmental science if I had to do it again.
Thank you very much. Give him a round of applause. Guys, these are great leaders. We need to learn from them. They are successful where they are, so it's important that we learn something out of what they are, how they reach there. I've got 1 minute, 2 minutes? Okay, sorry. Can you share an experience where you faced significant challenge and how you overcame it? Just in 1 minute, please. Just in 1 minute.
Sure. Probably my biggest challenge was when I left a corporate stable job to start up my consultancy. It was probably a massive challenge. 16 years later, it's still a massive challenge, but lots of fun. But we are a lot more successful, and we've grown since then. And I think part of that success is believing in what you do and networking and trusting your team to deliver on projects. So, yeah, that's it. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Give him a round of applause. Janet, sorry. If you were to describe yourself in your personal core values, which one is the most we can describe you?
Being principled and have empathy. Just the two.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much. Philip, just one more question. I finish. What's the best piece of advice you have ever received and how it impacted your life? Just in 1 minute, please. 1 minute.
The best piece of advice, thank you very much for that question. The best piece of advice came from my father, who luckily is still alive. But when I was a young boy, he told me, Philip, you know what? If a person walks up to you or you walk up to a person, it doesn't matter if that person works for hospitality or for housekeeping, or if that person is a minister or a president of a country. You look into the eyes, you say, hello, how are you? And then you continue your day, because you treat every single person on this planet as a human being. You might have to do a little bit more in your life with a minister than with a hospitality person, but still, show respect, show dignity. And this is what I have kept on in all of my life, and I think this is one of the cornerstones where I am right now. So I do thank my father for giving me that advice, and I usually don't give any advice, but this is one I give to everybody that I see on this planet.
Thank you, Philip. Thank you very much. Give him a round of applause. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. I think I would like to appreciate all my panelists for their valuable contribution and for your presence. In fact, it was valuable contribution. I think the audience have benefited a lot. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much. Panelists, can you come to the front of the stage? Let's get an official photo. And can we put our hands together for Mr. Salim Babde, who I think should have a TV show, actually. That was very enjoyable. And all panelists from this panel, Ms. Janet Lekashingo, Mr. Sodi Naika, Mr. Chris Showalter, and Mr. Philip Schmidt-Tom. Let's put our hands together, please, and appreciate the knowledge shared. You can smile. It's over. Great. Thank you very much. I will ask you to step down from the stage. That was great, short and sweet. And we are going to proceed to our final power panel of the day. So we've heard a lot about the challenges and the barriers, and one of the themes that keeps coming up is skills, skills, skills. So we're saving the best for last, if I'm allowed to say that. But Plenary 4 is about the existing skills gaps in the mining industry workforce. We've got an incredible moderator for you, along with expert panelists who are going to share experience now. So I'm going to invite up our next moderator, Engineer Benjamin Mtrampaka, Executive Secretary from Tanzania Chamber of Mines. Come on up, take your seat on the stage here. And panelists, we've got quite a few panelists here, but we'll start with Dr. Dalali Kafumu, former Commissioner for Minerals and Member of Parliament for Tanzania, Dr. Karibu Mbele, Dr. Elisante Mshiu, who is the Dean at the School of Mines and Geoscience at University of Dar es Salaam, Mr. Peter Gathacole, founder and managing director of the International Apprenticeship and Competency Academy, who has a wealth of experience here on skills, Dr. Prosper Mgaya, the rector from NIT, and last but certainly not least, Mr. Simon Sanga, Chief HR Officer of Tembo Nickel. Engineer Benjamin, can I ask you, rather than reintroduce the panelists, go straight in with your questions so that we go straight into the discussion, and wishing you a successful session in 45 minutes. Karibuni sana.
Thank you, Miranda. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. It's getting closer to evening, I think. So in the interest of time, since my panelists have been introduced briefly already, I will just go straight to the questions so that we don't take a lot of time. Welcome, my panelists. I'm privileged to have a wonderful panel with me, 5 of them. That's why I've been not able to balance the seat. At least there are 2 on my right and 3 on my left side. So I go straight to the questions. I've got a question for each panelist, and you'll be taking a maximum of 6 minutes. Not more, please. Go precise to the answer the way you deem it necessary and right. So I will start with Dr. Kafumu. He has been in the industry for very, very many years. So, Dr. Kafumu, looking at the entire mining cycle, the mining project cycle from exploration, mining and construction development, then mining, processing, and value addition, which skills do you think are in shortage in Tanzania?
Thank you very much. Good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen. Question goes, I have been asked to share a bit on the skills which are lacking in Tanzania, from exploration to value addition. It's quite a lengthy question, but I'll just highlight some of the points. If I start with mineral exploration is an activity that needs to generate a feasibility study that would be used to develop a mine. So you have 2 sessions or 2 issues there. One is collecting the data from the field, going for exploration and mapping. And then the other side would be to make the data you have into an economic venture. For the first part, the skills are really available in Tanzania. We have a lot of technicians and geologists and with skills of going to the field to collect data and do mapping. But for the second part of the exploration, which is giving this data the value, you have the geological models and those geotechnical. Always companies they don't find skills readily in Tanzania to evaluate, to give value to the mine. They invite companies from outside to do this, so that the feasibility is bankable and then passed by the Joint Ore Reserve Commission. So we have little skills in there, and we need to do something. For the mining development and construction, the skills which are needed are more engineering skills of building a mine, electrical, civil engineers and all those geotechnical, electrical engineering and the surveying and so on. These skills are readily available in Tanzania, but they're not refined for mining. And that's why you find companies inviting companies from outside to build a mine, because the skills of building a mine in Tanzania are lacking. We need to do something there so that we can actually benefit from that. The skills for mining itself, these are also engineering skills. Building a mine, you need to excavate, you need to build the roads and so on. These skills are available, but they are also not really refined for constructing or for mining. We have little skills here. We need to establish some institutions which would actually make skills available in the country. For the skills for mineral processing, again, we have few institutions which train skills, hands-on skills for processing plants. And in most cases, companies would employ unskilled labor and train them on job training. So these skills are also lacking in Tanzania. For the value addition, it is also the value addition. We don't have industries here which make value addition in Tanzania. I would say because the industries are not there, we cannot say value addition. We can talk about mineral processing because we have some of the mineral processing. Mr. Moderator, I have just highlighted some of the skills which I think we need to develop them. I may end up saying in 2009, we decided to cooperate with the mining companies to develop an integrated mining training institution in Moshi, which was trying to integrate all the mining skills to get people who could operate heavy equipment for mining, who could drive the big vehicles in the mine, and other skills, electrical skills and so on. So we still have to do more on that because our institutions which we have are not enough for that. They are concentrating more on exploration and mining. Asante sana, Mheshimiwa.
Thanks, Doc. A big round of applause for Dr. Kafumu. Yeah, he has tried to highlight areas where we think we are lacking skills and we have a lot of work to do. I think, ladies and gentlemen, you agree with me that this topic is very critical as far as enhancing the Tanzanian skill to take over the jobs that are currently being done by people from outside. And that's all content is all about. So building on what Dr. Kafumu has said, my second question goes to Mr. Simon Sanga. For the skills that have been identified to be of shortage in Tanzania, what are the key barriers in providing the right skills?
Thank you very much, Moderator. I think there are so many barriers that prevent the industry from getting the required skills. And I'll try to group these into three key stakeholders. What I think is happening from the mining industry as consumers of the skills, what is happening from the training institution at the suppliers of the skills, and most importantly, what is happening from the government as a regulator and a key stakeholders in all this. So starting with the industry itself, I think there is a lack of clear strategy and vision of managing the talent pipeline that enters the mining industry. So generations change. In the past, maybe mining industry was the most attractive industry that every university student would aspire to go into mining. But the world is changing. Today, if you go to university, probably the Gen Z, they are looking to become people who are doing coding. They want to do robotics. How many want to go into the mining industry? So it's very important for the mining industry to market itself and to give reasons to the young generation why they should be aspiring to join the mining industry and not other sectors. When you look again to the training institution, the main issue that I see is there in terms of skill development is lack of standards. So let's say we have got so many training institutions, we have got so many vetters, we have got so many vocational training centers. But the question is, do the skills that they provided are the same? The answer probably is not. Professor here, doctor here talked about the IMTT. IMTT is producing world-class artisans. Why? Because a lot of investment went into it, improvement of the curriculums, as well as teaching methodologies. So you can get a graduate from VETA, maybe VETA A and VETA B. Both of them are having certificates, but in terms of skills, it's not the same. So we need to be very clear to differentiate between certificate and skills. These are not the same. So people may have same certificate, but when you analyze the skills, it's not the same. So we need to make sure that as a country, we try to standardize and provide an equal field for the training institution. The other challenge that is a barrier for the mining industry getting enough skills is also other players in the market. We are also competing for skills with the other industries, manufacturing, oil and gas, and others. So mining industry cannot sit in isolation and say that we are developing skills for the mining. There is nothing like that. The moment you develop skills, if they are good enough, they are going to be absorbed by other industries as well. So we need to be mindful that as more we develop skills, the more the competition we are going to get from other players in the business. And lastly, I'm trying to look, and this is merely for the government, and I'm grateful that the chairman of the Mining Commission is here. One of the biggest challenges which I think the government can help the industry to solve, because it's a barrier for skill development, is the whole issue of diaspora. There are new countries which are now starting mining, and maybe they are younger to us. Where they'll be looking? They'll be looking to Tanzania to recruit more people with more expertise and experience. So there are more Tanzanians who are going to work outside of the country. But now, who can tell me how many are there? So as an industry, if I'm looking to recruit diasporas, where do I go? Where is the database? To whom do I speak? So this needs to be a national dialogue, that this is a scarce resources, that everybody is fighting for it globally, and as a country, how do we prevent our critical skills from moving from the country to go somewhere else, so that when we attract investment, we can have abundant supply of skills. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Mr. Sanga. Gentlemen, a big round of applause to Mr. Sanga. He has tried to highlight the challenges, the difference between standards and certificates. You just get a certificate but different skills, competition with the other players, diaspora issue, and Madam Janet has taken it very seriously, in my opinion. So, yeah, we are trying to, people are thinking, we are trying to get some ideas on how we can go about this issue of a skills gap in the mining industry in Tanzania. That takes us to question 3, and I go straight to Dr. Prosper Mgaya, who is director at NIT. Your question goes like this: what are the roles of technical colleges and universities in addressing the skills gap? I know you have been in this industry for a long time. Dr. Mgaya, please, 6 minutes.
Thank you. I'm from the training institution, and therefore, looking at the situation that we are going through as a training institution, there are a number of issues that we could do better to address the skills needed in the mining sector. To summarize, the roles of the training institutions I have classified or clustered into 6 groups. The first one that is expected by anybody is basically to provide foundational or traditional training, theoretically, and the skills that are needed in mining. I could not talk much on that because it is obvious that most of the institutions that we are training today, we base on the traditional way of training. As the first speaker who contributed on this matter. He said we have an example, civil engineering, electrical engineering. Basically, they are not hybrid in the sense that they address the required skills in the mining sector, but rather they are generic. Therefore, if a graduate from the institutions goes to the mining, they need the in-house training before they start working. To that particular issue, I think, as a training institutions, we need to change in that particular aspect. Cluster number two, institutions are expected to conduct research and innovation. I do understand or remember I visited Italian university and training institutions where they have the collaborative research between the training institutions and the companies, where the research are focused to solve challenges and the problems that the companies are facing. Therefore, the role of training institution in this perspective is basically to go out to the mining sector and look what are the challenges they are facing, so as the training institutions can be able to provide some solution to that. And actually what we are doing now, I should be honest, we are focusing much on long-term training for the diplomas and the degrees basically meant for the large mining companies. But we are forgetting the small mining or small scale mining. The small scale mining, what we are doing, actually, we are providing training on a request, rather than the training institution should be proactive to go out there in Geita or in Mara or wherever and to find out in the small scale mining what challenges are these small miners are facing, so as we can prepare some sort of training programs for this particular cadre. Another aspect that is expected from the training institution that we are not doing, actually the mining, especially the big scale mining, they recognize much on the certification, international certification. As a training institutions in Tanzania, we are not much invested on providing international certification to our graduates, something that we need really to invest on it. It's like when you have a welder. If you have a welder, a diploma graduate, if one goes to seek for an employment, one will ask for the international certification. Therefore, it's a role or is the responsibility of training institution to see how we are going to embed skills that are acceptable internationally. Therefore, we should be producing graduates which are not only employable in Tanzania, but internationally. They should meet that standard. But last and not least, because of time, another aspect that we are forgetting as a training institutions, actually we are busy training in a number of traditional skills, but we are forgetting a key aspect of the safety. Safety in our training is only embedded as a module or as a content. But in the mining sector, safety is a key issue that it has to stand alone. And this one needs to be internationally certified. Therefore, just to mention a few, those are the areas that we need to invest much. And also, the training institutions, it has to be a center for technology transfer. Therefore, when a new technology comes in, we expect the training institution to be like a center for technology transfer. Finally, I would say we should promote what we call the collaboration between the training institution and the companies. Therefore, what we have to do is to be proactive. we should, as a training institution, we should not expect that the companies will reach to us, but we are the ones to reach to the companies. And in the mining oriented training programs, what I think we should do last is to have what we call trade advisory committees. Trade advisory committees, as we continue providing training, these committees from the industry will help us to track whatever we are going to provide the training to see if we are on track or we are out of track. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Prosper Mgaya. I think you agree with me that we are getting some good stuff. That's what experience is all about, you know. And I believe our secretariat will be recording these key points so that some of them can be taken as a recommendation to the government to see what we can do to address the skills gap in our mining industry. Another round of applause to Dr. Mgaya, please. Thank you. Then we move to question number 4 to Dr. Elisante Mshiu, who is also from the academia, the University of Dar es Salaam. Dr. Mshiu, do you think a collaboration between technical colleges and universities with the mining industry, say through a chamber of mines or mining companies individually, could be one of the solutions to address the skill gap that we are facing? And if yes, recommend areas of collaboration between the training institutions and the mining industry. It's actually building on what Prosper Mgaya ended to. Karibu.
Asante. Thank you very much. In the previous session, we have heard that reliable personnel with the able skills is one of the very key criteria for the development of the mining industry. So I think this discussion now is very important, and we have to really discuss it in deep to make sure that we come up with the solution to the problem of the skills gap. So to have skilled workforce is very important. But I don't see in any way that we can fill that gap without collaboration with the industry. There is no way. Because even the gaps that we are seeing today, maybe in 5 years to come, will be different. And you will also agree with me that any new technology comes first into the industry before it reaches to the higher learning institutions or in the training institutions. So without collaboration with the industry, we will keep training our students using the very, very basic skills that may be available and may be not satisfactory to the industry. Now, why are we here today? I think the kind of collaboration that we have so far is based on the trust between individuals in these institutions which need to collaborate. I am a lecturer at the University of Dar es Salaam. Maybe I have a colleague who was my classmate at a certain mining company. So it is based or it is founded on that kind of friendship. If that guy shifts to another company, that means that collaboration ends immediately. And that's a problem now. Another problem is the way leaders in the institutions, in the triangle, the government, the higher learning institutions, but also the mining companies, the way they handle the offices when it comes to collaboration. Sometimes when you receive a letter from a certain company or from a certain university, you will first look at the top there to see the logo and identify where the letter has come from. Then you will jump direct to the end, who has signed the letter. Later on, you will come to the text, try to understand the text, but unfortunately, you will understand the text according to the person, to the way you know the person. And that's where a big problem is, you have reduced an institution from being an institution to an individual. Because it depends most of the time the way you translate that person. And even the response that you are going to give to that institution will be a response from an individual. Because the moment you translate a person from another a letter from another institution as an individual, you also become an individual. That's a problem. So this is no longer a communication between institutions, rather a communication between individuals. And that's a problem, I will say, with the character of people that we have as leaders in the groups of institutions in the triangle. Now, what to do? Because we cannot control the character of people, of individuals. We have to have a committee that is made by a consortium of the three groups: the government, the mining sector, and the higher learning institution, of which among the activities within this committee should be to have an R&D basket, a fund which will set a foundation of activities which will impart skills to our students, but also will impart experience to the instructors in the universities and the other training institutions. I think that is one, I would say, is a foundation and very basic. Beyond that, I think it's upon now the character of a leader of the institution who will see maybe there is importance to collaborate with the NIT so as to impart skill to students through experience. For example, most of the skills that we have mentioned are not only the skills that are used in mining. Most of our students, when you ask the stakeholders, they say soft skills is also a problem. Maybe it's a big problem. Maybe our students cannot even communicate what they know about the knowledge they have learned at the university. Now, some of these skills are not available in the higher learning institutions. These skills are in the mining industry, in the companies. We need positions, we need practical training positions, we need internships, we need placements for our staff to gain experience so that they can come back to the classroom with the reliable knowledge that is required at that particular time. So for me, I think we need to have an instrument, and probably because we will look at the mining companies as funders, probably the Chamber of Mines will be the chairman or chairperson of this committee, so as to manage all these training activities in Tanzania with regard to the mining sector. So for me, we really need this instrument because we cannot control the character of the individuals in making decisions. Thank you very much.
Thank you very much, Dr. Mshu. Another big round of applause to Dr. Mshu, please. Yeah, Dr. Mshu has also underscored the need of having a training advisory committee or a certain instrument which can collaborate the training institutions, the industry, in this case the mining companies or through the chamber, and the central government to see how best a sustainable mechanism can be put in place to make sure that there is a way of thorough analyzing the issues and enhancing the collaboration between the parties to make sure that there is that continuous collaboration. Maybe when curriculums are being developed, the industry and the institution could sit together and see which areas are actually marketable. When they train for the industry. And you don't just train because your curriculum says you should train in ABCD. So I think that point might be taken to see what we could recommend to the government to have a mechanism, whether you call it training advisory committee or something else, but at least to oversee this sort of collaboration to make sure that we are actually addressing the skill gap that is existing right now. Thank you very much, Dr. Mshu. Now we go to Mr. Peter Gathakol, who is the founder and the managing director of International Apprenticeship and Competency Academic Limited. I understand his company just got an award recently as Africa and the rest of the world regional training provider of the year at the Engineering Construction Industry Training and Development Award. A round of applause to Mr. Peter Gathakol. So, Mr. Gathakol, the last question is, are there incentives in place, in your opinion, to promote mining companies or the employers to provide more training and career development to the employees? And what do you think the government should do to the current SDL system to incentivize employers to invest more in skills development?
Thank you, Ben. So just to the subject of SDL, Skills Development Levy, the application of SDL and the contribution by employers of SDL is a very contentious subject studied by various institutions. And the contention is, how is the SDL spent? You know, do employers get benefit from the contribution they make? And this is not just in the mining sector, it's across all employers. And so, but if we try and focus SDL in the mining sector, just some statistics. I think there's 17,000 employees in the mining sector. So that contribution of SDL at the moment goes into a fund, a pot of money, but it's not really reflected in developing skills for the mining sector. So I think there's an opportunity through the Ministry of Mines, the Chamber of Mines, to address this issue with the government and see if that SDL can be fine-tuned and targeted to build capacity in the mining sector. And SDL traditionally goes to Vocational Educational Training Authority, VETA. So in terms of the skills that we're talking about, these are the technical skills, not necessarily the engineering, higher education skills, but it's more of the technical skills, the technicians that we need, the mechanics, the electricians, the welders, etc., the fundies. And so this is where there has to be more focus. These are the areas where if you talk to not only the large-scale miners, but the small-scale miners, and even if we thought about the artisanal miners, these are areas that are lacking in investment, lacking in skills, and that's where we need to focus. Some statistics, they say approximately 850,000 Tanzanians enter the workforce every year, and of that 850,000, there are only around 60,000 formal employment opportunities. So how do we change? How do we look at that? And this is ignoring the artisanal miners and what they're doing, and the lack of opportunities in terms of training and capacity building that they have. So again, it's something that we need to address. But SDL only covers training in training schools. What about on-the-job training? This is where, and all of the panelists have touched on this, and for me, training has to be industry-led. It can't be led by government. It can't be led by training institutions. Industry has to lead training, and that collaboration between training providers, training institutions who are represented on this panel, and manufacturers, employers, there has to be a bond and an arrangement. So, as it's been said, they have to develop curriculum, they have to explain to the training providers, these are the skills that we need, and they're actively involved in that. But that's just the first part of the training. The second and most important part of any employer and any employment is the on-the-job training. And it has to be formal, it has to be structured, because otherwise the students will not gain the right competencies to become a valuable member of the company. So formal, structured, on-the-job training is absolutely fundamental, and that goes across all jobs for me, not just technical jobs, whether it's accounting, whether it's marketing, whether it's hospitality, whatever. The on-the-job training is the most important thing, and that's where competency is built. And that's when, Tanzania is short of technicians. The whole world is short of technicians. So if we can get this right in Tanzania, and it was mentioned earlier by both Simon and Dr. Magaya, international accreditation, which is many companies are asking for it. If we can get this right in Tanzania and give Tanzanians an international qualification, that means that they'll not only contribute to the development of this country, but they can also travel. They can travel with that qualification and they can work. And what will they do with the funds that they acquire? They'll send them back home. So it's a win-win for Tanzania. The mining sector alone can't do this. Tanzania has mature sectors. The mining sector is, if you add Madui, we've got 40 or 50 years history, but we've got fractured sectors. And that's why the mining sector can lead as they led in 2009 with IMTT. I think there's an opportunity now with the new mines coming along. They can also take a lead, but other sectors will follow. Reinvestment in IMTT, reinvestment in new schools can also be collaborated with the oil and gas sector, can be collaborated with the energy sector, with infrastructure, because without that collaboration, without that lead, industry-led, we won't succeed. And those thousands and thousands of Tanzanians that need opportunities, they'll be left behind. And that is not the scenario we want to leave. Thank you.
Engineer, can I support you to take a question from the audience? We have time for 1 or 2 questions from the audience.
Yes.
If there are any questions for the panel on skills development. Okay, Acha, please. Abdul? Frahini, if there's a microphone, there's 2 questions here. Please
make it short. Make it short and straightforward.
The mic is coming. Please stand up so you can be seen. Thank you. So we have 2 questions, and then I'll ask you to answer and close the panel. Thank you, Engineer.
Hello, my name is Nina Jodler and I'm the founding director of CEDA Tanzania. I have a question because I see there's another gap that's being missed here. Often a lot of the new mines are being erected or in rural areas and remote areas with a lot of expectation from the villages surrounding these areas that they will be hired by the mines. Often that's not where we find our civil engineers or our executives or even our professional tradies. How do we bridge the gap from people in rural areas who have minimal education, maybe only year 4, to get them ready to go into a vita situation? Thank you.
Thank you. Let's take the second question and then we'll pass it back to the moderator. Thank you.
Good afternoon, panelists and delegates. My name is Tala Ntingandwe from the Zambia Chamber of Mines. I'm the Deputy CEO. Mine is more like a comment, just to supplement on what Tanzania is doing in terms of skills development. In Zambia, we are Africa's second largest producer of copper, which is quite different from what you're producing as Tanzania. And we need a lot of skills. Well, there's a history to what we've done in Zambia because our mines were in government hands some few years ago and the assets were privatized into private hands and we have seen massive investment into the mining sector. So when government was running the mines, they made quite substantial investment in trade institutions. Each and every mine was supporting a trade training institutions. And some of them have been taken over by the private sector. Now, you might be alive to the fact that, there is competition even among the investors or the mines because you need the rare skills. So what we have done as in the Chamber of Mines is, we've supported government's initiative of skills development levy, which is 0.5% of the total emoluments. And that skills development levy is paid, the largest payer, I think, is from the mining sector. And we have also done to tap into that fund as the Chamber of Mines. We are trying to identify the rare skills, and pass them on to these trades training institutions. And also we go back to tap into the funds to train. Skills like mine rescue and first aid. As you look to expand on empowering small-scale miners, there's a danger of safety in the mining industry. And you need to make sure that, we emphasize on the issue of safety as well. You need to emphasize on the issue of the rare skills such as welders, fabricators, boilers, and also the demand in getting, training in articulated dump trucks. Our youth, who have not attained a certain level of education, this is the easiest way of getting them to participate in employment in the mining sector. I thank you.
Thanks for that case study from Zambia. Let's take that one question, engineer, and then we can answer and close the panel, please.
Thank you. I think I tried to respond on the comment given by Talent from Zambia Chamber of Mines. This is a good recommendation I think the government could take. And that's why we had a question about what do we say about our current SDL system, the way it's being distributed. In Zambia, we have heard that the Chamber of Mines in Zambia is somewhat involved to see how they can tap on the SDL by collaboratively looking at some important areas of training whereby skills need to be enhanced. Whereas in our country, I don't think we have that room of negotiating with the government to prioritize areas whereby SDL should be directed. So I think that's something we can learn from our neighbors there and see how we can enhance the skills gap. First, by mining companies collaborating with the training institutions to fund the key training, needs, but also to see how much can be tapped from the SDL if the government sees the importance to make sure that we are apportioning a certain amount to address the skills gap, including the issue of safety in ASM activities. As we know in Tanzania, we have a big challenge of safety in small-scale mining. And the major issue is technology and maybe capital as well. So if SDL can also look into these areas, but in collaboration with the industry, and that's why the importance of the training advisory committee that was being recommended could look into that issue. Now for the first question, I'm not sure, I didn't get it clear, maybe my panelists could respond. Sanga is an HR, maybe could respond in that one. Karibu Sanga.
Yeah, I think if I got the question correctly, it was more centered around what the mining industry, particularly new projects that are coming up, are ensuring that the local people are participating, especially in the provision of skills to the mining industry. What I would say is that I believe that problem of this magnitude cannot be solved by one entity. So mining industry cannot do it on their own. Training institution can't do it on their own. The government can't do it on their own. If you ask my opinion, is that mining companies as investors should now start shifting from infrastructures. Because what we see even on CSR project is the schools has been built, hospitals has been built, but how sustainable they are going to be, especially when the mine is not there. So I believe that there are many people or organizations in the industry who can do better than the mining. So if you find a partner, for example, who can run health services, if you can find a partner who can run schools, if you can find a partner who can do surveys and understand the problem in the social and in the community, then you can get it right. So I think there should be a more dialogue, not only with people who are sitting here, the producer and the consumers, but there is a big stakeholders, which is the social and the people from the community, those who are giving us the license to operate.
Thank you, Sanga. I think if you can allow just a comment from each of these by half a minute or something.
Half a minute each.
Okay, thank you. I wanted to comment on when we are talking about skills, we are actually talking about skills at a technician level and the vocational training level. The university level, which is more research, we don't have any problem on that. The skills are there at the level, geologists, engineers, we have them. But at the skills technician level and vocational training, which is under NACTIVATE, the National Council for Technical and Vocational Education Training, they are doing it very well now in other skills for other industries. The question is, how can we use this basic infrastructure which has been put by the country? We have vocational training institutions all over the country. We have technical institutions, many of them, but the concentration is on other industries, not on mining. So we need to use this infrastructure, as he was saying, the moderator here. The Chamber of Mines of Tanzania have to talk to the mining industry to use this infrastructure which the government has put in place already. We train at about 7 levels, NTA levels, National Technical Award 1, 2, 3. These are VETA, the VETA, and then 4, 5, 6, these are technical, and then university levels. So that is my thought, I think, as the Zambian contributor have said here. Asante.
Thank you, Dr. Kafum. Peter, 1 minute.
Yeah, STL is just one form of financing, but it's a shame that there are no lenders in the room. Obviously, mines need finance, and one of the challenges that I've always given to lenders is that why aren't technicians bankable? If we're doing training to an international standard to a technician, then surely that person is bankable. The Ministry of Education, through the Ministry of Finance, offer grants and loans to students, academic students, diplomas. Why can't technicians get loans? Because for me, they're much more bankable, because if the training's right, the jobs are there, and it's a win-win for both the technicians, the banks, and the country. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Mshiu, 1 minute, please.
Thank you. Yeah, for me, I think my message is collaboration. We need to sit around the table and find solutions to our problem. If we say skills gap, I cannot solve on my own as an academic institution. I need the industry, I need the government. So in any way we go, we need to collaborate. Thank you very much.
Thank you. Dr. Mgaya, please.
Thank you.
1 minute.
Yes, 1 minute. I call upon the mining industry and the training institutions to come together and strengthen the collaboration. And also, let us not focus only what we call skills. To me, skills plus capacity. Because if you talk only skills, you will focus on vocational and technical. But if you talk about capacity, you will talk the entire spectrum of the personnel involved in mining. I mentioned we need to do research that is problem solving. Now, for a case of doing research of problem solving in mining is no longer skills, it's capacity. Therefore, when we talk, we have to combine the two, skills and the capacity to deliver.
Thank you very much, my wonderful panelists. I think we have come to the end. A big round of applause to my panelists.
And a photo of the panelists from memory as well. Thank you very much. Our moderator, please come to the front. If you could stand up together. Can we put our hands together for Engineer Benjamin Mtwampaka, Dr. Elisanti Mshio, Dr. Kafumu, Peter Gathakol, Prosper Mgaya, Dr. and Mr. Simon Sanga. Please come and arrange yourselves in a line here so we take a photo together as a memory. Can we look forward? Thank you. Let's put our hands together. We've talked skills. We've talked about SDL and how to invest that. The good news is the lenders will be in the room tomorrow morning when we talk about access to capital. So we'll be able to pick that up. But a lot of lessons learned shared today, through the day. So what I'm going to ask you to do as my panelists head back to their seats, we are almost done with day one. I'm going to ask you to close your eyes for a moment. Close your eyes. Go back to this morning. No, seriously, close your eyes. Close your eyes. Do not fall asleep. And go back to this morning and think about our official opening session. We proceeded to talking about legal and regulatory frameworks, tax systems, what needs to happen. We've talked about all the many challenges and barriers. And then we've talked about skills and what the gaps are there. We've talked about infrastructure deficits. We've talked about energy. And I want you to raise your hand if you have an aha moment, a takeaway from day one that you're like, yeah, I didn't think about the difference between value addition and beautification. What is your one takeaway for day one? Who would like to share? Madam Janet, the jewel in the mining sector, our sister. One takeaway.
Thank you very much. The takeaway that I have for today's session is mining value addition is there, it's known, it's needed, it's support. So I think for me it's a call for action. It's a call for action, it's a call for readiness from the government, from the investors, and from whoever can benefit from it, because the time is now. And if you don't join the bandwagon now, you will join when it's late. Others would have gone. Thank you.
The train is leaving the station. Asante, tumpigie makofi. Let's take two more takeaways. Who else has a takeaway? Some people still have their eyes closed. I would love to hear from a young person. You look young enough.
Thank you very much. My takeaway today is about we have discussed a lot about the mining as a life, but the wealth of the country and of the world in large. Performance of mining industry will be observed and should be start from the training institution. When the owners of these mining companies sit together with the academicians from the training institutions, is where we can get we can cover the said skill gap. Thank you.
Thank you. Asha, Sabrina, I'll come to you after because we've heard you on the panel. Let me look for a new voice. One more. Somebody I've not heard. I'm coming to this side of the room. One more takeaway from day one of the Mining and Investment Conference. Who would like to share a takeaway, an aha moment? Yes, sir.
Hello, everybody. Thank you for being here. I think we should take advantage of the government that we have now, because it's one of those that listens a lot, and I think it has particularly taken a very unique step to invite locals to come in. A person like me wouldn't be here prior to the government that we have today, so I think we should all consider that and take advantage of it.
Ningependa kusikia from one kijana wa kike. Huyu hapa.
Good evening, everyone. I am Zuhura Mkindi from Dar es Salaam Institute of Technology. My day one take home is about the concept of having program advisory committee, which will bring together the training institutions, government, and the mining industry. We really need this thing because we all know that the technologies, they come from the industry, and then training institution has to take it and train it in a way that it can be beneficial to the industry and the nation at large. So we cannot just sit aside and keep on teaching without knowing what is going on in the industry. So I really wish if this one can happen, can be implemented, and I'll be the first one to go forward and make sure that it really takes place.
Asante, Zuhura. A round of applause for Zuhura as well. So please be prepared. Tomorrow at the end of day, we'll be doing the same thing. We will always be sharing our takeaways because it's important that we consolidate the knowledge. We do have official rapporteurs in the room, who are capturing all the action points that have been discussed, and they will be shared at the end of day 3. But for tomorrow, be prepared to share your takeaways. A couple of housekeeping points before we let you go for the day. We've had our official opening, we've had the context set, we've understood what is happening in Tanzania, we had the Finnish case study that helped us to learn from another example. As I mentioned before, the regulatory landscape, we've looked at barriers, challenges, skills, and tomorrow we're going to shift our focus into access to capital. So looking at the banks and the lenders, how they're supporting the mining sector, and looking at critical minerals, that are fueling green energy technology. All of this will be happening tomorrow, so you do not want to miss it. On that note, tomorrow morning, breakfast will be served, or morning tea, from 7 in the morning. So if you really want to take advantage of the Mining and Investment Conference, arrive at 7. Have your breakfast, go around the exhibition, network, set up some meetings. We will be starting in this room at 8:59 sharp. Whether there's one person, 100 or 1,000, we'll be starting at 8:59. We'll be kicking off with a short keynote from the Minister of Minerals from Kenya. We'll be sharing some words with us, and then we'll go straight into Plenary 5. Please don't forget to sign up for the business-to-business session. If you wish to have a meeting with a member of the Ministry of Minerals, you need to go to the booth and request an appointment, and you'll be able to have that happen at the end of day 3. We have evening tea that is served now, so the day is not over. We're just done in here. Tea is served outside, so please continue the bilateral conversations. There is VIP tea in Mkomazi room. You know yourselves, the MPs, members of the ministry, and so on. And as you explore Dar es Salaam this evening, I want you to just reflect. What more can be done? The chairman, Ms. Janet, just challenged us. The time is now. The train is leaving the station. As you reflect, as you lay your head down tonight, I want you to think about what more can be done and what can you do in your individual capacity for us to build and improve our socio-economic development in Tanzania. Madini Gala dinner will be happening tomorrow night. We will be sticking to time very strictly, as buses will be leaving here at 5 p.m. so that you arrive at the venue ready for dinner at 6. So make sure you come ready for that, but you must have your ticket in advance. For Plenary 5, if there are any speakers in the room, Plenary 5, your briefing session will take place at 8:15 a.m. in Sadani room, 8:15 a.m. Other than that, I'd like to say a huge thank you. Thank you for sticking it out for the day. It's been an incredible day 1. We have 2 more days to go. Manage your energy. Looking forward to seeing you tomorrow morning. Have a wonderful evening ahead. Asanteni sana. Be blessed.
Mama Samia, beba mitano tena. Nchi yetu imeweka leo historia, kuongozwa na simba jike. Si mwingine ni Mama Samia. Hivi ni nani anayempinga Mama Samia? Nani anayesema hatupendi mama? Mama wa Tanzania tunakupenda mama. Mama Samia, unaweza kuongoza. Maneno chache, kazi mingi kwa huyu mama. Ni mpole, apendishari mtu wa watu. Ameleta maendeleo ndani ya nchi. Miradi mingi nafanyika ndani ya nchi. Amejaza utalii ndani ya nchi. Mama Samia, Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania, kwenye tunu yetu Mama Samia. Mama we mama, simba jike Mama Samia, beba mitano tena. Nchi yetu imeweka leo historia, kuongozwa na simba jike. Si mwingine ni Mama Samia. Hivi ni nani anayempinga Mama Samia? Nani anayesema hatupendi mama? Mama wa Tanzania tunakupenda mama. Mama Samia unaweza kuongoza. Maneno chache kazi mingi kwa huyu mama. Ni mpole apendisha mtu wa watu. Ameleta maendeleo ndani ya nchi. Miradi mingi nafanyika ndani ya nchi. Amejaza utalii ndani ya nchi. Ameruhusu demokrasia ndani ya nchi. Anasapoti michezo rais wa pekee. Nasikia goli 1 milioni 10. Nani kama Mama Samia? Mama, beba mitano tena. Tunakupenda mama. Mama we mama. Mama Samia. Hali yetu Mama Samia. Na serikali ya mama we mama. Fahari yetu Mama Samia. Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Weni tunu yetu Mama Samia. Mama we mama. Simbajike Mama Samia. Beba mitano tena. Nchi yetu imeweka leo isituria. Muongozwa na Simbajike. Si mwingine ni Mama Samia. Hivi ni nani anayempinga Mama Samia? Nani anayesema hatupendi mama? Mama wa Tanzania tunakupenda mama. Mama Samia unaweza kuongoza. Maneno chache kazi mingi kwa huyu mama. Ni mpole apendisha mtu wa watu. Ameleta maendeleo ndani ya nchi. Miradi mingi nafanyika ndani ya nchi. Amejaza utalii ndani ya nchi. Ameruhusu demokrasia ndani ya nchi. Anasapoti michezo rais wa pekee. Nasikia goli 1 milioni 10. Nani kama Mama Samia? Mama, beba mitano tena. Tunakupenda mama. Mama we mama. Mama Samia. Rais wa Jamhuri ya Muungano wa Tanzania. Weni tunu yetu Mama Samia.